Hi folks, I'm Dennis. Today I'm going to do an oil change on my Husqvarna YTH22V46 lawn tractor. It's got a 22 horse V-twin Briggs engine in it, and I'm going to walk you through a simple oil change procedure. So let's get started. Now my tractor has been well used and abused. I use it for some light bush hogging, things like that, cutting out in the woods. You can look at my review, my 100-hour review on this tractor to see some of the cutting that I've done. I'm going to show you some of the basics first, and then we'll get into some of the specific procedure. Lift the hood. Here's the dipstick and also the filler tube. Right here is the oil drain plug, and there's a tube that comes with it. You have to remove this, what they call a lower dash cover or cowling. You got to remove that. On the left-hand side of the tractor, you've got this cowling also, and then right up under here is the oil filter. So you got to have a new oil filter. The manual says to just change it every other oil change. I don't do oil changes on anything without changing the filter, so I'll change the oil filter this time as well. When you buy your tractor, you get two manuals. You get the operator's manual and the parts manual. We don't need the parts manual today. The operator's manual's got a maintenance section in it. You get into the maintenance section. It gives you all your intervals for service, things like that. Where to lubricate, that'll be a separate video. Where to put grease, how to change the blade. Then it gets into oil changes. They recommend, Husqvarna recommends 5W30 if you operate in temperatures below freezing, and SAE 30, straight 30 weight motor oil if you operate in temperatures above freezing. They recommend changing the oil after 50 hours of operation, or at least once a year if it's not used at least 50 hours. They also recommend replacing the filter every season or every other oil change if it's used less than 100 hours in 1 year. I change my filter every time I change the oil, but that's my personal choice. Also with your tractor comes this tube. It's about I don't know, 10-inch long clear plastic vinyl tube. That's used to help drain the oil in a way that it doesn't make such a mess. I don't like this. This is one of the things that I don't like about this tractor. And one of the things that I intend to do with mine is to put in some permanent plumbing to make the oil change a little easier, but I'll show you how it's done by the book first. You're going to need an oil filter. I picked this up at my local big box store. You can order them online. It's you've got a Briggs & Stratton engine in this tractor, so you need a Briggs & Stratton filter. It doesn't have to be a genuine part filter. You can get an off-brand if you like, but this is just my particular choice. There's the part number. It's 492932S, like Sam, Sierra, and that and your oil and this tube is really about all you need. So we'll get started with the oil change now. Okay, first thing you got to do on both sides is get rid of this lower dash cover. You got to get them out of your way, which is all right. I would like to see a different design here, but that is what it is. You got to take this pin out. There's a plastic rivet right here, and then there's two slots here that slide down in there. So the easiest way I found to take that out is you just reach up underneath here and push that out so you can get a hold of it. It's got a real thin plastic head on it, and you can, if you push on it, you can get it out. Then all you got to do is take this housing or dash cover and pull it out like that. It's just got a couple of snap locks in it that snap into right here. You can see how the slot is there where they slip into. Then you can get to the oil drain plug, which is right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the lower dash cover off on the other side too. If you're not changing your filter, you don't have to take this side off, but like I say, I change the filter no matter what. pull that out, slide that off, and then you can get to the oil filter. Now, to get to the oil drain plug and not make a big mess, I recommend turning your wheels all the way to the left. That gives you a little bit more room to get in there with a drain pan. It's not a real convenient setup here with this oil drain situation. Now what I do is I take my oil pan and I just slide it up underneath the tractor so that I can get it. Here's my drain plug, and I can put my tube on there and run it down into the pan without too big of a mess. This drain tube that comes with the tractor is what you use here. There's a couple of things you want to do. First of all, go ahead and wipe off around your oil filler tube, your dipstick. You don't want to get crud down in there because it's going to go into the block. And then open it up. Mine's pretty grungy around there, so I'm going to be careful to wipe it away from that opening so that nothing goes down inside that tube. And I'm going to just leave that unsealed so that the oil, it'll help the oil drain a little bit better. Doesn't really matter to do it around here, but I do it anyway. I'm going to take this little black cap off, and then that's my oil drain port. Okay, and I'm gonna stick this tube on there that came with the tractor. Then what I've got to do is unlock this yellow part from the drain, and so you've got to turn it. It's about 1/8 of a turn, I think, to unlock it. That'll allow you to pull it out, and once you pull it out, it's going to start draining. So you want to get your tube pointed down into the pan, and then pull that out. And then you can see I'm draining oil. The capacity on this thing is 2 quarts, so it doesn't take a whole lot of oil. One thing to keep in mind, this thing drains pretty slow, so it'll take it a few minutes. I don't know, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 minutes probably to finish draining. It'll get drained down to just a really slight trickle. I tend to let mine go until it's just dripping, and then I'll cut the valve off. Make sure you got your drain tube pushed up on this yellow connector real well before you pull it out and release the oil, because otherwise it'll leak down on your frame here and just makes a mess. Okay, so once it's done draining, push the valve back in and turn it clockwise 1/8 of a turn to lock it. Carefully take this tube off, because remember, it's got oil in there. You fling oil up in your face or whatever. And I kind of let it finish draining and then wipe all this off so I don't get oil everywhere. Snap that cap back on. Now you're done with that side. I'll usually just take this tube and kind of wipe it off, and then I stand it up in my funnel with a rag under it so it can drain, and that way it doesn't get my toolbox nasty. Alright, then we'll go to the other side to do the filter. Filter side's a little messier. Now I do the same thing. I slide my oil pan out, my catch pan, turn the wheels all the way to the opposite side, to the right side, so I can get my pan up underneath here. And then I'll do the same thing. Not that it's going to fall in the engine, but I just don't like dirt and crap around places where oil's going, so I'll kind of do a wipe off on this spin-on filter. You might have to use a filter wrench. Depends on how tight you put it on before. I actually don't have one to fit this size filter, but if you do need a filter wrench, get you one of these. Make sure it fits this size filter. It'll fit onto the filter like that. You can take a ratchet or a little small breaker bar or whatever and put it on there, and that gives you some leverage to turn that filter off, or you can take it off by hand like I just did with this one. This cable's kind of in the way. A couple of the blade cable and the throttle cable's kind of in the way, so you got to get them out of your way. But spin this filter off. I recommend getting it off kind of as quick as you can, and then, because you see what it does, it just, the oil runs all over the frame right there. Get it off as quick as you can and turn it right side up until you can get it into the oil pan. And I just keep an oil rag handy and try to wipe all this off as best I can. It's I'm not sure why they didn't make this a little more conducive to changing than they did, but the filter itself makes a pretty big mess. I just try to keep that oil dammed up as I go. I don't like to leave a lot of oil on the frame of anything, because oil will attract dirt, and dirt will hold moisture, and moisture will cause rust. And so I try to not leave a bunch of oil on anything, or grease, anything like that, because it tends to hold the dirt, and the dirt will make you rust through your frame. So now the good thing is, once it drops its oil that's in there, you don't get much else out of it. So I just kind of keep that rag stuffed right there just to catch whatever oil does drain out while I'm getting the new filter ready. You're going to take your new filter, take it out of the package, make sure your seal is clear and clean, no problems on it. Take your finger and just dip it in this old oil that's in your pan. Just get a little bit on your finger like that, and then run it around that seal like so, just enough to get that seal damp. You don't want any oil dripping off of it. You just want to get it just damp so that it seals up. It's a rubber seal, so a little bit of oil helps it seal up fine. And then you're going to thread it on. It turns on clockwise, just the opposite of how it came off. And what you're going to do is you're going to spin this on until that seal makes contact, and then you're going to turn it another quarter to a half a turn, and that's as tight as it needs to be. Some places, or some folks, will crank them way down, and you don't need it to be that tight, because if you do, it's just going to be hard to get it off when you go to change your oil the next time. So then you're done with that. Now all we got to do is put oil in it and check it. So we've already loosened up our dipstick. Wipe that off. Now when we go to check our oil, once we put oil in there, I don't know how well you can see this, but you've got two marks here. There's two holes, and there's a hash mark in between. The bottom hole means that you're low, and the top hole means that you're full, and it says full right next to it. It'll tell you to add. I'm not really sure on this one. It only holds 2 quarts, so I'm going to guess that hash mark is probably a pint. I don't think it's going to be as low as a quart. It'll probably be a pint. But that's how you're going to check it. And when you're done here and you've cranked it and made sure that the filter's full of oil, you should be on the full mark. You don't want to overfill it because it'll hurt the seals. You don't want to underfill it because the engine needs as much oil as it needs. So you're shooting to be in between those 2 holes when you check your oil. Alright, so we're going to set that off to the side. I use a funnel because I'm messy. And the manual calls for 2 quarts, 64 ounces with a filter change. 60 ounces without a filter change, so just a little shy of 2 quarts. Most of your oil jugs today have a scale on the back One side's going to be liters and the other side's going to be quarts. So this is a 5-quart jug, or I should get down to this mark and be full. Okay, so I'm done putting oil in there. My jug says I've put 2 quarts in. Take my funnel out. Take my dipstick, wipe it off, make sure it's clean before you stick it down in there. Again, make sure the inside of that cap is clean because you don't want dirt and crud falling down in the filler tube. Put your cap on there and make sure you go all the way to lock. Push it all the way in to where it locks. Take it back out. And then check your dipstick. Now right now it's going to be just a touch high because the filter's not full. So now I know I've got enough oil in it. I'm going to crank it up, get the oil pressure up so it fills up the filter, let it drain back down, and check it again. The other thing that I'll do while it's running is I'll check for leaks here, no leak. And I'll also check for a leak around the filter, no leak. You want to make sure that you check for leaks while the engine's running because that's when the oil pressure is built up. And if your filter's not on all the way, or you didn't close this all the way, it'll show up then. So we wait a minute, let the oil drain down back into the bottom of the block, and then check our oil and make sure that it's at the right level. Alright, so take your dipstick and be careful when you pull it out because it's going to drip. And you can see that we're right up to the full mark. That's perfect. Exactly where I want to be. So put my oil cap back on, make sure it's tight. I know I don't have any leaks. Now what we have to do is put the cowlings back on. The what they call the lower dash covers. Again, these slip into here. So you just put that right there. Push it down. Take your rivet, put it back in the hole over here. Push it in. That's done. Same thing on the other side. Your cables, this cable stays in, this cable runs out. There's a notch on this side right here for that cable. So make sure you get it in that notch. Put that cover on, slide it down. Push that rivet in. You're done. Now you're finished. Good to go, got a good oil change. So then the only other thing you got to do is dispose of your oil. What I do is I keep one empty oil jug, and when I change oil in something, I pour the oil in there, and then when I've got a full jug or two, I take it to the parts house, and they have a drum where you can just give them your used oil. That way you don't have to try to figure out what to do with it. So anyway, that's it. Appreciate you checking out my channel and watching my oil change video. If you got any questions or suggestions, I'd be glad to hear them, and try to help you out if you have questions or need some help with your tractor. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back soon.